So I became Pinocchio, you know, and I was Peter Pan. We all picked our own costumes and characters, obviously. And that's really, really what I was trying to put across was just my perspective on that particular world.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Reaction. I'm your boy, Black Pegasus, with my co host, Tim Sommer, where we lift the hood on legendary songs and artists to see what's really going on. INSIDE. Tim, what's going down with your brother, man? Welcome back to the show.
Always a
Mm,
pleasure. And I'm
mm.
so excited to have this amazing voice from our past, present, and future joining us today. Someone who is such a big part of our memories.
As you can tell, Tim and I are super excited to introduce today's special guest, the one and only Annabella Lwin. Annabella is an icon and the lead singer of the legendary band Bow Wow Wow, which helped define and shape the sound of the 80s. Her career has spanned 5 decades, and it's incredible to see her still thriving in the music industry today. Annabella, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for your kind words. And I don't feel I'm thriving. I'm still waiting for that day. But I'm always very grateful and thankful for, people wanting to hear and see Bow Wow playing. And I mean Bow Wow Wow, one band, one singer, that was there from the
There's no Bow
start, and
Wow
that
Wow
was
without
moi,
you or
Annabella
without you.
Lwin, like you just mentioned. Very grateful. Yeah, some people don't know that when they're like in their teens, until
Yeah.
they actually come to see us, and then they come up to me and tell me these amazing things, and I said, yeah, I was your age when I joined the band, so they kind of go, oh my god, so it's wonderful always to get feedback, always.
Now, Black
That's all.
Pegasus is a little younger than I am, and you're a little younger than me, but I'm old enough to remember the first time I heard Bow Wow Wow, and I think the words I want to use to describe it, a beautiful shock, that rumbling, that incredible singing, that tribal sound, just that wasn't dissonant, but sort of felt like something that had been in our soul for 1,000 years. When you first heard the band, when you first were in the studio or the band, were you reacting the same way to this incredible new sound?
I auditioned on one song called C30 and I was hooked. After two rock and roll numbers, one of which we actually put on an album I just found out recently called Cast Iron Arm. I just want to say when I began in the band, when it started, Malcolm was writing. He was the lyricist, the ideas guy, the avant-garde perception and genius with all of that. And when we did like Baby on Mars and Louis XIV and all the songs that were on something called A Cassette Pet. In fact, I thought it was called My Cassette Pet, which I thought was kind of nice because I thought, oh my God, I've got my cassette pet with me. But in fact, it was a bunch of stuff, songs that were being translated from an idea that Malcolm had in Paris. Vive la France, as they say. But in Paris with another writer, apparently. And I didn't know this till years after the event. But in answer to your question, I knew immediately that I was working with excellent musicians. Obviously, they were all seasoned musicians. They were much older than me. So I was really in good hands musically. But it was really Malcolm that was the one who did all the writing in those
A
early
and
sessions that we were.
we should
Yeah,
establish right now, when we
yeah.
say Malcolm, I'm referring to the
Malcolm
legendary
McLaren,
late Malcolm
avant-garde punk
McLaren,
rock. Yeah,
who
genius.
was one of the people who helped assemble the Sex Pistols, and after the Sex Pistols changed the world, his next big project was you and Bow Wow Wow.
I didn't have any clue who Malcolm was. To me, he was just this funny orange-haired guy who was brilliant at, giving me visuals of the songs he was writing and penning. Like, for example, Go Wild in the Country, what came a little later, obviously, than the cassette pet, because he kind of semi had these ideas, like I said, which I was unaware of at the time, for a movie. And it was going to be all with kids and children. That's a whole other discussion. But I had no clue who Malcolm McLaren was. All I knew was that he was a very funny, very shy man most of the time when I was working with him. And I always thought he was gay, so I always felt really comfortable with him. Thank
Is it
you.
true You were discovered in a dry cleaner, or is that just one of those myths?
No, it was true. I was working, it was my job. I was working I was working part-time, every Saturday because I went to school in the week, obviously. But every Saturday, they'd play the top 40, the chart music, and I'd be singing along to the songs on the radio whilst I was bagging clothes. That was my first start-up job officially. I wanted to work in a cake shop, and my mum got me the job in the dry cleaners. So it was thanks to my mother, ironically, that, you know, I was working in the dry cleaners to earn some pocket money.
To add to that question, I was just curious. Did you know that early that, hey, I want to be a singer and be in a band, or was it just something you did passively?
I used to sing along to records at my mum's home, and I was home taping, which is what the song
Right.
C30 was about. But no, I had absolutely no aspirations to be in an industry that I knew nothing about. Obviously, I was still at school. I was 13 and a half, about 13 and a half then when things started, um, you know, transpiring, if you see what I'm saying.
So who heard you in the dry cleaners? Who walked into the dry
It was a
cleaners and
friend of
heard you?
Malcolm's. It was
Yeah,
what they called a scout. I didn't know
yeah.
that at the time. I didn't know he was a scout. He'd been coming in a few weeks, but he was a lovely man by the name of Dave Fishel, and, apparently he was the, music coordinator or orchestral person for Patti Boulay, whom I'd heard of in those days because we used to watch Patti Boulay, this beautiful dark chocolate-skinned woman, and she would sing amazingly.
Stop it. Stop it. I like it.
Because, singers to me are like, they've got incredible voices. Opera singers, those are singers to me. Pop is pretty much, as Malcolm used to put it, throwaway.
So Annabella, I've actually just got introduced to your music through Tim and some of my friends. I did a reaction. On YouTube, we react to music for the first time, things we haven't heard, and I reacted to "I Want Candy," and they
Yeah.
familiarized me with more of your story. So
Mm.
today, I was going to check out this song for the absolute first time and just kind of vibe out to it. Listen to it, and we're just, I'm going to talk about how I interpret it, and then have the conversation with you and Tim, and just, have a fun musical conversation.
I believe it's "Do You Want to Hold Me?"
Cool. Let's do it.
Children, I wanna warn ya, 'cause I've been to California, where Mickey Mouse is such a demon, where Mickey Mouse is as big as a house. Life is wasted on illusions. Tom and Jerry's no solution. Evil games for cartoon demons. Pinocchio's a real boy. Look around. And I cry all night. Do you wanna hold me? Hold me tight. Do you wanna hold me? Oh yeah. Do you wanna hold me? Hold me there. Children, you
All right,
got
can you
to
guys give me a
hear
pause for a
me.
second? I really enjoyed where this was going musically and sonically, and how you played with your voice, the cadence there. Um, Also, I felt like this was kind of calling out maybe the entertainment industry. Is that what you were doing with the lyrics? Kind of like, I kind of liked how you're calling out almost like the Mickey Mouse Club. Maybe things aren't what you think it is in the entertainment industry. Is that what was kind of going on lyrically there?
When I wrote the lyrics, and we were doing the melody, because it was me and the guitar player that, did all of that Going Gets Tough, the Tough Get Going album in his living room. I remember he just kept saying to me, write about stuff you want to say to people of your age. And that was the big thing for me. And by that time, I was about 16, 17.
Okay.
So I kind of, we'd obviously done a lot of touring, which is how which is how I got to gain all the experience that I gained at that particular juncture in my life. So the lyrics were for me to do with all the cartoons I'd been seeing at the time, and mainly like
Mm,
Tom and Jerry. The fact that he kept beating up the mouse, you know,
okay.
the visuals didn't quite sit right with me, as a kid, because we come from love and we come from, you know, um, you know, just being good and being good to others. That's the kind of idea with humans that we're supposed to be anyway, and to animals. And just because it was a little mouse doesn't mean you've got to pick on the little mouse just because you're bigger than the little mouse. Do you know what I mean? If you're a big person, and I mean big in not just, stature, I'm talking about, you know, in any way, shape, or form, the idea is from your own success, you can help others to be successful. And that's the idea. We pass it on. We pass on the experience. We pass on the knowledge. And all of those songs that I wrote with Matthew were basically all my viewpoints of what was going on in the world. And maybe you're picking up on a few of those points. But like for example, the video that we did, I think that was Tim Pope. We did that. Tim Pope. I think
Who later
Mhm.
became a very successful and
he was
well-known.
yeah, he was just
Yeah.
starting out then. That's right. And he said, "Well, what do you want to do with your visuals?" I said, "Well, I just want to dress up in all the Disney characters that I loved." So I became Pinocchio, you know, and I was Peter Pan. We all picked our own costumes and characters, obviously. And that's really, really what I was trying to put across was just my perspective on that particular world. And I guess some of it crept into the lyrics, life is wasted on illusion. Tom and Jerry's not the solution. You see them beating each other up, again, going back to the stature thing and being a small mouse and a big cat, um, the idea is that when you get to a certain stage in your life, because I'm a Buddhist, I'm and practice, I can maybe I've got a better grip on it than I used to have when I was a teenager because I didn't used to practice then, but I was born a Buddhist, so I've always had this thing about the spirituality of everything and everyone, and obviously the soul, because we're just bodies with a soul inside. Doesn't matter whether you're a cat, mouse, dog, rat, whatever, rabbit. Any living, breathing thing has a soul and feelings and all the rest of it. So the long story short of that, in answer to your question, I hope I'm answering it, Black Pegasus, is I just wanted people to get that viewpoint that um, just be you. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a couple things that I absolutely loved, and I think it's fascinating because if I was just in here in a room listening to this song myself, I
Mm.
might have taken something different away from it, and you were able to show me
Oh,
your complete perspective. But I
okay.
love that art transcends in a way where you're also giving me a different perspective, right? Like without you telling me, hey, this is what it meant to me back then as a child and putting this together, I was still formulating something else. I love that, but the most important thing you said to me that I just wanna cradle like a little baby is, inspiration.
Uh-huh.
I was listening to a Pink Floyd song for the first time, and I was
Oh, I
like,
love Pink Floyd, yeah.
"Oh."
Dark Side of the
I
Moon,
was
my brother used to play it all the time. Yeah, yeah.
I was like I realized that we're in a new atmosphere, in current music where people do what you said they shouldn't do. They go to the studio to produce a hit, manufacture this music to sell to the masses, and that's what is destroying music. It's go in to create, go in inspired. Inspiration is what creates the music. And I just had this weird epiphany when I was listening to a Pink Floyd song, and you re-said what I was just thinking like a couple of days ago. So I just want to highlight that and get back into the music because I absolutely love it.
Oh, thanks. You should check out the Cherry Red box cassette because that's got all of our work on there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's run it, Mike.
You just got to understand me. Love and death ain't no physical thing. 'Cause Mickey Mouse, he don't wanna know. And I cried all night. Do you wanna hold me tight? Do you wanna hold me? Oh yeah. Do you wanna hold me there? Do you wanna?
That's Matthew. See you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. The music and your voice was bright for me, so it, like, makes me feel, like, uplifted.
Oh,
It's interesting because in some of the visuals, where we had, I think, like, it's, like, flashing, like, little flashpoints, so you guys are dancing, having a good time, but then it's like, I wasn't sure whose mask that was, but it looked like a president,
I
maybe,
think it was Ronald
yeah.
Reagan, right?
That was Ronald Reagan. That was Matthew
okay.
Ashman, a guitarist that passed away, unfortunately, my songwriting partner on the last album.
Seeing some of those visuals, it was interesting, the contrast of some of those visuals, and then we'd go back to, like, maybe the theme of the feeling, this upbeat, vibrant thing, so,
Mhm.
I don't know, I really enjoyed that, I wanna
Good,
hear that again, and
good, good.
the
Yeah.
all of the
Mm.
melodies just, like, bring you in and just keep drawing you in.
Oh,
And those
Anyways,
thanks.
drums that keep on rolling and
Oh
rolling and
gosh, yeah.
rolling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's so interesting is the context of the song when you wrote it, uh, 40
Just on guitar, just me and the guitarist, yeah.
when
And,
you wrote
he
the
came up with a
song.
chorus. He came up with a chorus because, I said, "Well, why would I say, 'Do you wanna hold me?' after all of that," with the lyrics that are the verses. And actually watching that video was really interesting because I just remembered, the idea that we're all playing these parts, or not playing, but there are all these different guises and the question. And then it made sense to me because it's basically like saying, "Well, would you still wanna hold me if I was looking like this? Or if I
Right.
was in that particular outfit wearing that and that person and Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. I thought I was trying to be.
What's so interesting is you have these in your head when you write the song. When you perform it live, and you
Mm,
perform all the time now, you're on tour very actively. When you perform it now, I feel that when
not
an
enough.
artist, a legacy artist
Yeah.
goes out and does it well, the audience
Mm,
is remembering. They're not thinking of those things. What they're thinking, what you're seeing in their eyes, Annabella, what you're seeing in their eyes is, I remember where I was the first time I heard this. I remember the girl I kissed the first time I heard this. I remember
um,
the songs now belong to them. But 45 years ago, they belonged
mm,
to you. They belonged to Matthew. They belonged to the
mm,
band.
mm.
Today, when you play these songs, you're sharing memories with these people. And that's a wonderful thing about being able to go out and do this, isn't it?
Thank you so much. I always know that, but thank you for the reminder. It's always good to be reminded of the reasons why we're doing what we do at the age we're at. And as I say, I'm incredibly grateful that people still want to hear me sing and perform and just have a chat with me like you guys. Thank you for taking the time to take an interest in the material.
How did how did you insulate yourself from all the controversy in the press about you being so young and being in so much in the public eye?
Well, I
Well,
didn't
you must have been
actually.
aware of it.
It's a simple answer to that. Didn't really insulate myself. I was thrown out into the den, as they call it. But I had a tutor on the US tour. Well, the long US tour that we came out to do. I had a young woman who I didn't know was not that much older, but she was a jolly hockey sticks kind of gal, and she was a lovely lady called Jenny. And she would insist on spending 3 hours a day doing my homework because that was legally what I had to do. Because obviously I was underage. So I didn't actually insulate myself other than with this companion, as it were. And she wasn't always around me, but I used to basically do what I've always done, you know, because I'm pretty much, I like my own sphere. I have to have space and be in my own zone to do what I need to do to, you know, when I'm saying my prayers, chanting Namyo Horenge Kyo, or, you know, being with my pets and just being at one and doing absolutely the opposite of what I do when I'm in the world of music. Um,
I'll
Right.
mention 2 things, which is in New
mm,
York at the time, and again, I'm going back a long, long time to
New
when I was
York
in my late
City,
teens, early 20s.
so pretty.
There
Yeah.
wasn't a girl in New York who wasn't in love with Matthew Ashman.
Oh my goodness me. Yeah, and in Japan too. I used to chase him around. It was hilarious. But yes, he was a very talented musician because he was in Adam and the Ants, of course. I didn't know anything about Adam and the Ants either until I actually got to meet him at Malcolm's funeral, actually in 2010, which was a poignant period for myself too, because my mother passed away later on that year too. But anyway, so yeah, we had. I guess we had an eclectic mix in the group, but Matthew was he always stood out. To me, he was like the rock star of our band, you know.
Yeah,
He was the rock star of our
and so
band.
talented. And you were involved very early on. One of the people that he was involved in your band before he was famous was Boy George, isn't that true?
Not really. I don't think 2 shows quite cut it, does
Oh,
it?
okay,
I mean, you
it
do
was
2
just 2 shows?
1 song, 2 shows. But anyway, George was a blitz kid because in those days, we used to have followers. They used to literally follow us everywhere we went to play shows, and they became a clique. They came to our shows, you know, and they always used to dress up, which was always so fascinating to me because in those days I didn't used to wear makeup. You know, I didn't know the first thing about putting on, you know, a stage makeup look. You know, but I sat there in awe watching this chap turn up at one of our gigs because he said, "Oh, I'm just doing a." I said, "Sorry, are you getting ready because you haven't got anywhere else to change?" He was sharing my dressing room with me, the band's dressing room, obviously. And he said, "No, I'm doing a song with your band." I went, "What?" So, first time I heard about it. But he did what we had a song called Mile High Club.
Any animal, any animal, get your feet up off the floor, find your partner, put 'em on. Any
But George did this makeup, and I was just sitting there. What I was like this. It's like, wow. So what? Is that what you do? You know, because I couldn't believe because he had, you know, he was shaving. He took off. He completely transformed himself, and it to me that was fascinating. Being obviously he was male, but he looked so beautiful, and it just looked so professional. His makeup. And that's when I started getting into doing my own makeup around that time or just after it. But he did 2 shows with us. Think one was in Leeds or somewhere, and then, we did, The Rainbow in London. Oh, no, the Hammersmith Palais,
You
sorry.
mentioned films, and there's
Yeah.
an interesting connection between you and Marie Antoinette and Sofia Coppola, isn't there?
Apparently, I was again, you know, I don't, you know, especially when you're working with people that don't inform you of what's going on half the time. I found out through her that she loved our band, and she said she set the character kind of on myself, which is odd because I don't think I looked anything like Marie Antoinette, but what a feisty young woman she was.
It's not too much, is it?
How old are you, Pegasus? You
I just turned 46.
Oh, so you're still a baby. There you go.
Uh-huh.
I would have said 30. I would have
I'll
said 30s. Yeah, you could pass the
okay.
30s. Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Hey,
continue
I'll
with the
hang on to it as long as I can. You
yeah.
know, I was curious about this because you had mentioned something about, you know, writing and
Mm.
film. When did you start writing? Because, you know, you got introduced to the
17.
industry.
Last
So
album, Go and Get
17 was
Stuff.
okay. So that's when you started writing.
Officially,
That's
officially. But Go Wild in the Country was a song yeah, officially, because I didn't get any of the publishing because they were so kind to me. But the long story short of that is Malcolm wrote Go Wild in the Country with me, for me, and about me. because
Um,
half of my heritage is in the country. That's where my mother
that
put me when I was younger, because she used to go off and work. She was a nurse. So literally, I spent a lot of time moving around amongst aunties in the countryside. So when I was asked a question, what do you do to relax, Annabella? I said, I go on holiday every year for 6 weeks in the countryside with my relatives. So yeah.
so that's a huge contrast, the
Mm.
country to touring. I've had a little bit of experience touring. I'm an underground hip hop artist, and I've been on the touring scene, when I was, doing that more so. I don't
Mm.
tour anymore.
Big
But
respect.
what about that
Yeah.
contrast, though? How did that, because, like, you're super young,
Mm,
touring,
mm,
and coming from the country, how did that kinda
mm.
shape and mold, you to where you're at today?
Well, it was easy because I was born in Burma. My parents
Okay.
divorced and split up, and then I went to London. So London
Mm.
was a huge city to me, which I didn't
Yeah,
really
culture
like
shock.
very much because I was a country gal. My mother
Mhm.
took me to the countryside when I was very young, and I spent, thankfully, my earlier years growing up amongst the country folk and the simplicity of the country life, and just being grounded, and not really being impressed by anything or anyone. And when I got to London, of course, it just, all the big city lights, as they say, it didn't really interest me at all. But the
Mm.
contrast, in answer to your question, was the fact that the city and the country have no comparison. I'd rather be in nature and next to wildlife than anywhere in the world, and I absolutely treasure it when I get to see my relatives there, and I'm able to do
You
so.
know,
Yeah.
I feel like you highlighted something that is incredible. I've lived
Mm,
in the city, I've lived outside of the city, but
mm,
sometimes without that, you had the grounding that
uh,
got you to where you're at. It protected you literally from probably a lot of different things, but there's something about that grounding that helped you kinda navigate through the city, through the industry. I don't know, I just thought that was super fascinating.
oh,
That's
bless.
awesome.
Like, your soul will tell you what feels right and what feels wrong. Everyone has
Sure.
that gut instinct, and just go with it. I would say 100% trust your gut instinct, because it's your angels and your spirit guides as well, trying to give you messages and talking to you about people's situations, etc. And, you know, um, that really is the quintessential comment you just made there. It's the grounding in the countryside. So yeah, I'm very grateful to my
Be
family in the countryside. Yeah.
That's
before playing that song, before playing "Go Wild in the Country," I have to say of the videos I've watched, and unfortunately, I apologize, I've not seen you for many years play live, perform
Oh,
live.
don't worry.
But
It's all right. You can
from the
go on my
videos of
website and
for
check it
the
out.
videos
Not a
from the
lot, but,
videos I've
I got a
seen
few. Yeah.
From the videos I've seen of you playing recently, all of these things, all of this spirituality, all of this love for not just nature but the world, all of the things that Buddhism teaches one about emptiness in a positive sense, not in a nihilistic sense. Um, I feel that you bring all of that on stage with you, and you bring all of that into your nightly contact with these wonderful strangers that you meet every night. I do get that sense. All of those things go into what you do on stage.
Bless. Well, I hope you get to see a show, and if you feel that way, let me know still. But AnnabellaLwin.com is the official website, AnnabellaLwin.com. And you can have a good peruse of interviews I've done, past and present. This will be my newest one, actually, because I don't do a lot. Because I talk enough as it is to everybody else, when I'm working, doing stuff with the band and driving everyone nuts because, I like things to be, but I'm pretty easygoing from what I gathered from the people I've worked with, and I just try to espouse the same when I'm working with everybody. You got to let your light shine. We're not here to be, it's all about me, me. And we all deserve to be free and happy. Everyone, everywhere. Doesn't matter, you know, if whatever, like I said a long time ago, whether you're pink, whatever, or polka dot, it's not about your color. It's about your soul in your body. And if people could see the soul, we'd be a lot better off as opposed to the. Does that make sense?
absolutely. I totally agree, and, it's interesting hearing that, because, me being in and out of the industry, like tour managing people, everyone has different personalities, but
Man,
a lot of the headliners, they're exactly opposite of what you said, you know,
Mm.
it's like the me things like, "Oh, let me get," I say
Yeah.
being a tour manager is like a glorified babysitter at some points,
Oh,
but it's
really?
all
Wow.
about it depends on who you're working with, right?
We'll have to talk about
And,
that, Black Pegasus, after the show,
yeah,
because I'll be
I
interested to
love
know your perspectives on that. Yeah, for
I
sure.
love to hear that because I always have to balance different personalities to make everyone happy to get us to the
Oh,
next event when I was
gosh.
doing that. Anyways, let's get
Yeah.
into the next song. Tim has another one for us. Let us
This
know
is gonna
what it is.
be this we mentioned the country, and you mentioned Burma, and, you mentioned your love for the country still, so let's listen
Yes.
to "Go Wild in the Country."
5-7, let's get underway. Here's Annabelle and Bow Wow Wow go wild in the country.
Mm. Reckon.
No strawberry milkshake. I want a picnic. I'm sick of seeing signs to eat walking down these dark, lonely streets. Wild, wild, go wild in the country where snakes in the grass are absolutely free. Wild, go wild in the country where snakes in the grass are absolutely free. I don't know you. I don't know your town. I don't wanna know you. I'll shop around. I'll shop around. I can get a train. I don't need no hamburgers, no takeaway. I want my own game. No bacon take. No strawberry milkshake. I do better. Hell, I do better. Swing on the trees.
All right,
Light
give me
to
a
the
pause real quick.
breeze.
The thing that brings me in the most is the drums, the percussion.
Mm.
That is insane. But the fact that we were just talking about this, I just feel like it's, like, so advanced and, you were ahead because when I was, younger, I was always trying to get to the city. I gotta make it. I gotta make it as a rapper. I gotta be in the city, and I was always in the city trying to make my name. And then as I've gotten older, I'm more like, "Hey, I wanna chill." Like, I do like being in nature. And I
Mm.
just think this is actually really cool. Like, um I don't know how many people would made a song like this in this time. So it goes back to what you were talking about, being grounded.
Mm.
And I could be wrong, so you clarify because this is your music. I'm just interpreting what I'm feeling and hearing right now. But I'm like, dang, man, it carried into the music where you're like,
Yeah.
you're shielding yourself from like poisonous food, even though you might not be, but it's like a milkshake, a hamburger, like all this stuff. And you're like, I
Right.
just want to go on a picnic. And I'm
Right.
just thinking about the depth there. I was like, "This is freaking awesome." That's why I had to stop it for a second because I was like, "This is
Well, actually, it was
actually s."
I wanna go wild in the country because it's like that's where
Yes.
you can be free.
Yes. Yes, free,
Yeah.
everything is open. I think of these open spaces.
Remember, the guys played the music, so have to give them the credit where it's due. Because, like, Matthew is steering the ship with his guitar. Because it's very important people understand that, you can't just throw a bunch of people together and expect them to come up with a great sound if they don't play very well, or a bunch of people together if they can't get the gist of what they're actually doing on that stage. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and the
Mm.
music complements the concept of the lyrics.
Oh,
So
yes.
you bringing that up and being like, "Hey, don't forget about this," is absolutely true because I feel like I'm going wild in the country and even almost on a jungle safari at the beginning, and I'm like, "There's just something to it." Like, everything complements each other, and I just thought it was so cool because we ironically kinda touched into your grounding, where you're
Mm.
from, and it's all kind of like a full circle moment. So I just thought that was
Mm.
cool.
Oh, bless. Thank you for noticing and recognizing that. I appreciate that, Black Pegasus. What is your real name, anyway?
Robert, Robert.
Robert. Thank you, Robert. Yes. Yeah.
Something Robert may have picked up on automatically, in which you were
Mm.
very lucky in the first band you were in to have
Excellent musician.
these extraordinary musicians and this
Mm, mm,
extraordinary drummer.
mm.
Dave, one of the amazing things about him, Robert, is that unlike every other rock drummer in creation, he doesn't wail away on the cymbals. It's all the
Boo.
tom-toms, and what the cymbals do, the cymbals
I know.
cut right into the vocal frequency. The
Yeah.
cymbals are when people play cymbals too much, they cut right into where the vocalist frequency range is, and it makes it very hard for a singer. So, to hear a singer with who doesn't have to fight with the cymbals is something just it's wonderful, it's really a gift.
Mm. I'm glad you highlighted that because I would have never known, but the moment you said, I was like, that's why I was just like, it makes total sense because of the feeling I was getting when I was hearing it. Because sometimes cymbals can sound great, or sometimes it can almost disrupt whatever signal I'm getting. So it
That's right.
just depends. It just depends on how I'm
Annabella
receiving.
has all this room to be emotional, to evoke, to create, because she doesn't have the she's not have doesn't have to fight with the symbols, and it's fantastic.
I think it's a very a good point to highlight that that's the art of making music, isn't it? And the art of having a good group of musicians and a good singer, songwriter, and the song. Of course, it's all about the song, as I was told a few years after when I was working with other apparently professional songwriters, that it's all about the song and, what was your last big hit, by the way, that kind of thing. But the point being, if people are able to write that quintessential, song, it will last forever. Doesn't matter
Right.
how long ago it was written. And I think that's the art of music. That's what we all strive for at the end of the day as creatives, I think. I don't know if you agree with me there, Robert Black Pegasus. Um,
Yeah, well, actually, we're gonna finish this one, and then we'll kinda have some conversation right into the sunset, but yes, absolutely to everything what you're saying, and when we talk about timelessness, when you talk about the human condition and bring it from your soul with inspiration, that typically can be created, and I think I saw that here, and I wanna talk about it just shortly because when I said advanced and ahead of its time, it's because I guess the world goes in cycles, but right now in 2026, as we watch this from the past, there's like this interesting movement where people want to be healthier, right? So they're seeking
Mm,
out healthier foods. They're seeking out everything you're saying in here. Oh, I want fresh air. Oh, I want to feel the earth. Oh, I want to eat something organic. And
mm.
it's very interesting
Well,
that
I'm a
you
vegan, so I definitely vouch for veganism, vegetarian, vegan. I went through the process. I used to eat scoff McDonald hamburgers, not knowing there were entrails and all sorts of awful, awful things in them. But vegan is the best way, I believe, to live in this day and age. It's very important to remember that there are millions of humans. And the animals are becoming extinct because they're hunting grizzly bears and killing bear cubs and going into their habitats and homes in the countryside, and devastating things are happening with seals being battered to death, baby seals. And of course, the ice is melting because of the global warming and what we've all had to experience. And it will get worse as we get older. And God forbid, I really it really does have a big question mark with the generation who are growing up now and their kith and kin afterward, because the world they're growing into is going to be really, really difficult. Because by the way, what we're doing to the animals, that's affecting us on different levels, and it's starting to affect us now more and more, not just with the pandemic that we all went through, but everything else that's occurring. It kind of goes very, very deep. Sorry to be heavy on this conversation, but we have to be aware of this because we're humans and we have a voice and we can talk about this and we can let people know what's going on. It's about don't buy into the propaganda of what's really, really going on. It's all about this. It's all about this, and who's getting all of this. As we all know. But the point being, we've got to be more conscious as a human species. We're actually quite behind in comparison to all the different ones on the planets out there. And I know I may sound a little wacko, but I truly 150,000% believe in everything that um, I'm espousing to right now, in this interview, and thank you for allowing me to highlight that.
absolutely. Again, this just highlights how advanced you were as a teenager
That's right.
making music like this, and you were opening the door and window to where you are now. I agree with factory farming, but we'll talk about all that stuff off camera. A lot of the
Mm.
factory farming practices are horrendous, and I'm in agreement here. But let's get back to the song and right, yeah, let's
Go
check this
wild in the
out.
country.
And this is about the conversation.
Hey,
I would
Chihuahua.
never. what you said is so important, so it's amazing to have these conversations with musicians and people who are aware. So, don't ever shy away from, certain things, but I appreciate it, and we're
Oh,
gonna
thank you,
drop
Robert.
back into the music.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
What a great start. That's Fun Boy. This is Fun
Oh.
Boy 3. That, of
How
course, was
old how old are you there, Annabella?
I think I was about 16, 17.
You
It
are
was
s
toward the end of our career because I got the mohawk. Yeah, I got the mohawk about a year after.
you are so
Um,
confident. There's such confidence
I
there.
just love singing, so I just felt the music and the rhythms and the guitar. Everything steered me musically.
What
So
is there anything you would have looking back now, is there anything you wish you could have told your 16-year-old self that night at Top of the Pops or any time looking in your past, the time you spent in your mid-teens as a member, as a pop star? Is there anything you wish you could have said to yourself?
$64 million question, that one. Still waiting. Timothy, I appreciate that, and Robert, your honesty. Always appreciate people giving me feedback and just, telling me if I made a difference or not. Because you kind of wonder when you get to my age at 16, you kind of go, did I actually do anything that made any difference to people? To make them happier? Because the idea is we're meant to be raising the spiritual vibration because of all the anger and hatred that keeps going on every day in front of our faces, and it's kind of scary because again, we weren't here to do that. Going back to the Buddhist perspective of peace. And it's all about one thing, as Curly once said, City Slickers. Love. Love is all that really matters. If you can't be kind and show love, then, that's not right. Because you get reborn, you get born again, but in a different body. And that's the thing I used to think, but yes, I was reincarnated. And someone went, do you know what reincarnation means? And I went, no. And they explained to me, when you're reincarnated, you're not the same. You know, you're actually looking and sounding and da 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 da. Everything is the same. So you'd be a pig, you'd be born a pig again. So you go through all that horrendous, horrific stuff. If you're this person who did evil to people, and I mean people who are evil, unfortunately, there are in this world. There is good and there is evil, which I do know to be true. And quite frankly, God knows why, because once again, we are souls in a body and we can make such a difference because we can speak about it, we can write about it, we can do music about it, we can espouse that when we're on stage. And I'm hoping one of these days I get to meet you too. And please do let me know, AnnabellaLwin.com, if you want to come and have a big chat with me because I love feedback. I love to hear all this stuff. And I don't know about other artists because I never used to, hang out with the bigwigs a lot. I used to like hanging out with the people that bought the music and spent their hard-earned money on and cash on buying us buying our songs. So always grateful to hear your perspectives, which I'd like to hear more of in the future.
Was all of this richness, was all of this emotional and spiritual richness inside of you when you were 15, 16, 17 on Top of the Pops or whatnot?
again, a $64 million billion question. All I know is I love singing. I've loved singing ever since I was born. My mum, of course, told me I used to dance in her belly. And that's a whole other story. But God rest her soul. My mother was a nurse, and she took care of people. She made people well. Um, and I guess in some strange sort of way, maybe this is my way of doing that. You know what I mean? But I want to do more than that. I need to do more than that. And animal people, reach out to me, please, because I really need to help make a difference for them in some ways. I'm doing it personally with cameo appearances and donating whatever I make, which is very little when I get asked to do the cameos. But, I really want to make a difference for all the animals. Sanctuaries, they're all doing amazing, amazing jobs and things to help. Things I'm not yet doing, but I'd like to in my own way, on my own
You
platform.
shouldn't underestimate, Annabella, the part you play when you're on stage and you're reminding people of the happiest times in their life, and they're reminding people of that amazing night they had in 11th grade when they went to that great dance and they heard your song and they had this amazing kiss with a girl they met that night. The things you're doing when you're
Yeah.
reminding people, when you're bringing those memories back to them, please do not underestimate the importance of that.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you.
And
I was curious how involved, like, I know you're touring, but there's a difference,
Dates,
or
not touring.
doing
Touring to me
shows.
is like going on the road for
Yeah.
several months. Sorry to interrupt again. Sorry, continue.
Oh, you're good. Spot dates. Um,
Mm,
but you're still doing shows. Do you
mm.
still interact with the music, heavily? Like, are you still
Mm.
writing all the time? Are you trying to create, or is that something that you mildly do or you don't do?
No, I have
How
songs.
how do you interact
I
with the
write.
music?
I write. If I get inspired, I'll write. I'll write. I don't have big budgets. I'm an independent artist. I don't have a big record label machine behind me giving me loads of money when I need it to go in the studio. I have to earn it to go into a studio with a producer and pay them to get a song recorded, that I've written. But in answer to your question, yes, of course, every day there's ideas everywhere. I may not write every day a song, but I have songs, I have ideas, I put them together, and when the time presents itself, I usually go in and put it all down. But I have new songs coming out. I have songs I've written, songs that have not seen the light of day, plus some other things that we haven't touched on here. But I would just say keep tuned to AnnabellaLwin.com, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, I hope. And one of these days, thanks to you, Timothy, thanks for what you said, and Robert for being very finely tuned to everything that's going on. By the way, now I understand why you're interviewing artists as well, because you are and have been, but you are still, by the way. So that will inspire you for the future. But writing is easy because it's everywhere, every day. We see, hear, watch the news. I like to hear the news every day because we live in this world where we need to be attuned to what's going on around us because it will affect us in one way or another. But yes, I mean, most importantly, I just love going out there and meeting the audiences and being on a stage to present the music that you've so very kindly said is bringing back memories. And I'm glad. And by the way, you've got to go find that girl, Timothy. You've got to find her, the one that you kissed at that time,
Yeah.
because life's too short, and you need to go. You need to go live it
Yeah.
and make the most of what we have on this earth plane to make a difference to others. Hopefully.
Be Before we get Tim in trouble, I'm playing. He married the girl that he's
Yeah, I
that
did.
Oh, you
I did.
did? Well,
Yeah, I
high
did.
five.
Yeah, I did.
Well, then I'm
um,
It's actually true. That's
well,
absolutely true.
give her a
That,
squeeze from me when you see her.
um And I have to say before we let go is that, knowing Robert a little bit and,
Mm.
really everything that you brought to us today is so much in tune with like sort of the warmth in Robert as I get to know Robert, as the warmth in his heart and
Oh,
his spirituality and his love and curiosity about the world. And it's really been extraordinary to find someone who's so in tune with that. And it's been wonderful to watch. So
well,
thank you so much for spending this time with us,
thank
Annabella.
you, guys. Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you.
All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Inside the Reaction, where we were graced by the presence of Annabella Lwin. Don't forget to check out her website. I will link that in the description for all things Annabella, whether it's her touring, her activism, all these different things. You'll be able to find it there. Also, my friend, mentor, Tim Sommer, my co-host, thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure.
All right, with that being said, you guys, we're riding off into the sunset. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, and spread the word. We'll catch you on the next one.